from the Pan London Idling Action Project. Over to you, Natalie.
Thanks very much, Susanna, and thank you everyone who has joined us to understand more about what we can do to affect the air in London. To give a bit of a background about the project, the Idling Action Project is Pan London, so it involves a partnership of 30 London local authorities plus the City of London Corporation. It's led by Camden Council and the City of London Corporation, and it's funded through the Mayor of London's Air Quality Fund. And it's about this partnership of London local authorities working together to educate drivers about the dangers of idling and to help them understand the role that they can play in making the air that we breathe in London healthier and cleaner. The project's been running since last October, and already we've been delivering air pollution anti-idling workshops for the schools throughout London, and we've been engaging drivers directly in idling hotspots, but particularly around schools, to ask those idling drivers simply to switch off their engines for clean air. So just to give a little background, why does this project tackle vehicle idling? Well, idling is nearly always unnecessary, and it's a source of pollution. So it's very easy to switch that engine off and therefore have an effect on that really localised pollution level. And we find that idling happens around very sensitive locations where vulnerable people gather, such as primary schools, hospitals, and high pollution areas. And for the local authorities, it can generate a lot of complaints for them because it's actually quite a visible pollution. You can hear and see when an engine, a vehicle has its engine on, but isn't going anywhere. And it is an offence and should be enforced, but enforcement can actually be ineffective. So a different approach was needed, which is why this project came about. So what does Idling Action London do? Well, as I said, it's 30 participating boroughs and the City of London Corporation as well. And we are focusing on affecting change and changing driver behaviour through education and awareness raising. And we do that through 3 different channels. The first is our Idling Action events. And these are where we train air quality champions, volunteers from the local communities, from the schools themselves. So we use parents. We also engage businesses and get employees from businesses as well to act as volunteers with us. And we go out in idling hotspots and we engage directly with those idling drivers. And we talk to them about the impacts of air pollution on their own health, and we ask them very simply in a positive manner to switch their engine off. And then we also ask them to pledge not to idle in the future. So as well as our idling action events, we also run school workshops where we go into primary schools specifically, and we deliver air quality workshops where we talk to the students about what air pollution is, how it can affect them, and what they can do to reduce their own exposure to air pollution, how they can avoid it, and how they can influence other people's behaviour. And then those students that have taken part in the workshops can actually come out with us and take part in these idling action events as well. And we find that actually drivers, when they're approached by students and told some facts about air pollution and how it can affect those students themselves, they're more likely to heed the messages switch off then, and perhaps even switch off in the future. And then we've very recently, at the beginning of August, launched our Engines Off campaign. And this is specifically targeting fleet drivers and businesses that use vehicles in London. And this campaign, we are asking these businesses and these fleets to pledge, and then we support them to make some actions to reduce their vehicle emissions. And this project is going to be continuing until March 2022. So just to give you a little bit more about our idling action events, we target idling hotspots and poor air quality areas. So this is mainly primary schools around London. And we work specifically with each of the local authorities to identify their idling hotspots and where we should carry out these idling action events. And we utilise volunteers for these events. So they're trained specifically to become air quality champions. So we train them before we go out to do an idling action event. We train them around air pollution and how to talk effectively to drivers to change their behaviour. So the messages we use usually are around the health implications of idling and air pollution and how it can affect the driver. And we also give myth-busting facts. So you don't need to be idling that vehicle to listen to the radio or to charge your phone. And actually, you can do these actions with the engine switched off. And we find this is really effective. We've done quite a number of these idling action events, and about 80% of vehicles that we engage with switch their engines off and also pledge to continue to switch their engines off in the future. And then we also have our school workshops. So these are workshops aimed at Key Stage 2 students. And we wanted to do workshops to kind of utilise pestafat power. So we were hoping that if we educate students on air pollution, how they're affected by it and what they can do about it, they can then go home and spread those messages, particularly those anti-idling messages, to the rest of their family, particularly their parents who might drive them to school or drive to work, and encourage them to change their behaviour and think maybe about other more active modes of transport that they can take to get them to school or work. So in the workshop, we investigate the different sources of pollution, how they can affect us, and the students learn very simple but effective ways to reduce their exposure to pollution, such as choosing active travel to get to school, or simply choosing a less busy road to walk down. And then they learn how to encourage other people to change their behaviour. And we finish the workshop by getting them to create some anti-idling posters that get turned into a banner that then is presented to the school, so it can be a visual reminder to the school, to drivers who pass the school, that this school does not want idling vehicles around. And then our Engines Off campaign. So this is the main way that we would like to engage with businesses and fleet drivers. We find that a lot of the time when we've done idling action events, because we're focused around primary schools for those idling action events, that those business vehicles, those fleet vehicles, might not be present at the times that we're there. So we needed another way to engage with them. And so we're doing this by offering a toolkit of resources for businesses to make changes, very simple changes that reduce vehicle emissions for them. And that is to take the no idling pledge, to take part in training about air pollution, how it can affect their employees, and what they can do by simply switching off their engines to make a difference. And we are asking, as it's live, and we've only been going for a month on this campaign, we have already got businesses signed up. Veolia, who is a very large waste management company who works with local authorities, have already pledged, as have Mace, a construction company. And we're also working to have the local authorities pledge as well. So we'll be working internally with the fleets in the councils to teach them about different driver behaviours that will make a difference on air pollution. So I mentioned we have toolkits. So this is a great way of really spreading the message and enabling people to take their own actions to make a difference. So we have toolkits so that different audiences like schools, hospitals, businesses, they can do their own anti-idling campaigns. And then we also have this toolkit specifically for businesses that want to educate and implement anti-idling actions in their own business as well. So I just wanted to leave with my details in case you want to get in touch. If you're a business owner and like to join our campaign, if you're part of a community group and would like us to work with you on an idling action event in the future, then you can get in touch. And I would recommend as well that you follow us on Twitter. Thanks.